through consciousness development, you start to become aware of different layers in reality. You can access wisdom.
Confront the unknown courageously. Speak truth. Have enough integrity so that you can break the rules when it's necessary in the service of a higher good. To know that is to be human.
You need to be extremely passionate about what you do. And if you're passionate about what you do, then this will infect others.
A lot of people are slaves of their fears and their patterns, but it's very important that you are free and authentic.
If you have the ability to empty your mind and perceive, then you can see.
Actually, it's inside out. Start with yourself and then you will be more capable of looking at the outside world.
We have to really slow down and ask ourselves what we're doing here and what responsibility we carry for future generations.
I am Joël aan het Goor and this is the Awake Origins podcast. Here to break down the misconceptions about success and happiness, bringing you inspiration from awake leaders, entrepreneurs and creators to empower you to create your life from the inside out.
All right, Christian Kromme, great to have you here on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I've been looking forward to this. I think it has been over a year since we last spoke with each other. And I always love your insights as well. You're an entrepreneur and a futurist. So you always blow me away with the things that you're sharing. So wow. Let's get going. What are you up to? You told me you're leaving the country.
Yeah. In 2 weeks from now, we move to Bonaire, an island in the Antilles, and I'm moving there because I want to be more part of nature, more in flow with my environment, in flow with myself. I'm working on a new startup, and I want to create headspace there to have new insights and new creative inspiration to work on that project. And it's also an intention for our family for the last 10 years. My daughter had some health issues when she was born, and she's thriving in a warm climate. So we also wanted to go to a climate where it's always a certain temperature. So we're moving, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So, what is it exciting you, or are you looking forward to this peace of mind that you have there? What is it that's first and foremost? Well,
first of all, it's also getting out of the system that we are in right now. I have problems with the way things are going here right now, and I want to opt out of the system. Want to go to a more relaxed environment where there's so much push, where things are more in flow with nature, with the climate and stuff. So it really excites me to go to an environment where I feel more freedom. Freedom is one of my main values. And what I believe to find there for me and my family is a lot of freedom, a lot of a new way to live with each other.
It's interesting how more people are looking for this new way of living. For me myself here, we're here in the forest, and for me it feels like a safe place. It's very close to my home with the Awake Origins office, and it feels like I'm okay here for the next couple of years. But this is already, of course, the next level that you're taking here.
Yeah.
And you're mentioning a project. What are you going to work on?
We're working currently on a swarm organization. So it's a digital platform, next-gen platform, where it's not about dividing people, polarizing people, but uniting people. So in my work, I always compare technology with biology. And if you look at biology, it's all about merging or uniting cells and empowering those cells. And I think technology should do the same for human beings. So unite them and empower them. So we are looking at principles in nature. So if you look at nature, we see swarms. So until 50 individuals.
So swarms of birds or fishes.
Birds, ants, mammals, fish, for example. And if you look at those swarms, they are always in flow. So that's a characteristic of nature. It doesn't take any effort to behave and to change their shapes and to adapt to the environment. And if you look at our traditional organizations or hierarchical organizations, it costs a lot of effort to adapt and to adapt to the environment and to fit into the environment. And in nature, it always fits seamlessly in the environment. So I'm inspired by nature, and we want to create a platform that helps people to work and to collaborate in a swarm-like a sort of larger organism, a superorganism. And we want to use the power of nature to align people from their own intention, from their own purpose, and so that we create an ecosystem where everyone can do their own thing, follow their passion, and everyone is empowering each other, like in an orchestra. So every player in the orchestra has his own instrument, and he can play his own instrument because someone else is doing his part from his own passion. And we believe that working together, collaborating in a professional way also, but also in a more communication with each other, should behave in the same way. So it should be like some kind of ecosystem where everyone can thrive. And we think that technology is now at a level with blockchain technology, artificial intelligence, to create a kind of swarm for human beings. And basically when you enter that swarm, it's like a lifetime journey. So we do all kind of self-tests to determine your values, your skills, your purpose, your intentions, all these things to place you within the right constellation of people so that you can thrive there. So it's a lifelong learning journey, basically. So it's not working anymore, it's developing your own potential and become the maximum of what you can be. And
so it means that that's the opposite of becoming this cyborg like Star Trek, and where you also have one superorganism, but that it's just there's no authenticity anymore.
No, it's the law of the swarm is also all benefit equally and profits equally, and also feel the same pain, but by keeping your own authenticity. And I think so you can participate in the whole by being your full yourself 100%. So, and your environment respects you for who you are. And I think that's the complete opposite of the traditional organizations that we have today. You go to school, you become some accountant or lawyer or whatever, and then you fit in some kind of cube within an organization, and then you do the work the rest of your life with a lot of stress. And we think that the organization should adapt to you. So who are you? How can we help you to thrive, to follow your purpose? And that's basically the intention of the platform. And we're constantly looking at nature. So we try to define universal principles. So how does the body work on a cellular level? How do these cells communicate with each other? How do birds within a flock communicate with each other? And it's like a holographic principle. And we want to copy that into technology and help people globally. So it's a global platform to start to have impact on a global scale from their own passion as an individual. So it's a big project. I think we will be busy for the next 10, 20 years perhaps. But I have a very strong vision, and I'm working with people who are also really excited, also fully in line with nature and what happens there. We want to transform that to technology.
And what is then the gateway on an individual level to understand yourself?
I think self-reflection. To truly understand yourself, we guide you through a set of self-tests, also educate you. What does it mean to have a purpose? What is a purpose? What are values? All these things. And by doing these tests, you get a result, you get feedback from the system, but also from people around you in a swarm. So it's constantly a reflection to the environment, back to you. And I think that process is like a feedback loop. And when the feedback loop becomes shorter, you learn faster. If you have a private coach or a private trainer, you have constant feedback, then you learn much faster than you are in a group with 20 or 100 people. So, and this platform is basically a reflection of yourself. So if you look at a swarm, each fish looks at 7 fish around him. It's and the fish in the circle also look at 7 fish. So it's a constant mirror around yourself that show your inner world. And by entering that mirror, which is 360 degrees all over, then you get a constant feedback about who you really are. So you can say A, but people see B. And the self-test will give you a much better picture of who you really are. It's like a mental selfie. So you get a more the level of consciousness that you have. All these things, the emotional struggles that you have in your head, in your yacht, for example, in your early days. How are they limiting you today? So I think all these tests and systems will help you to evolve as a human being. And I think that's the ultimate long-term happiness that you can create for people.
So what do you envision? What kind of people will participate in that swarm? Because in my experience, not everyone is ready to have a mirror, and at least certainly not to have a continuous mirror. Of course, within Awake Origins, this mirroring is also going on all the time, but it's not for everyone yet.
No.
So for who is it and who not on a global scale?
I think right now it's perhaps for 5, 10, 15% of the people. So people who try to seek or to look for a different way of organizing their life, to have more authenticity, to become more autonomous. And for those people who want to organize and to stand up against the system that we see today, which is rolled out globally, those people need some kind of effective way to organize, and I think this platform will help them to do so. So there are many initiatives worldwide with small groups of people who want to create a different kind of society, create biological food supplies, different kind of money, different kind of society, democracy, and this platform will help people to make decisions on a collective scale. So it's an alternative for platforms like Facebook, and this platform is more for people who want to have trust, to build relations on a long terms. So that's basically the target audience for the beginning of the platform. But later on, when the platform becomes an ecosystem on its own, more and more people will enter, because eventually, if you look at the Maslow pyramid, we just passed the tipping point in the pyramid. The bottom layer is all about deficiency needs, so food, shelter, energy, those things. Mm-hmm. And we are now entering the top level of the Maslow pyramid, which is about growth needs. So when people lose their jobs because of automation, artificial intelligence, robotics, or universal basic income, it doesn't matter, then the bottom of those Maslow pyramids for those people is covered. So they start to feel some kind of need for growth, personal growth. So I think sooner or later, people will cross that tipping point, and then they will be ready to enter that platform. Mm-hmm. So if you look for personal growth and reflection, then this is the place for people to be. And as long as you are in the deficiency needs part of that Maslow pyramid, then you're not a fit. But I think sooner or later, everyone will.
Yeah. And well, when you look at what's happening currently, so there's lots of transformation happening across the world. Many things are happening which you can look differently at. And then there's a new rollout of a system you're mentioning. And you're saying, okay, with this, we can give structure, organization to, let's say, the more conscious people, conscious creators.
Yeah.
And I feel this is lacking right now. You agree?
Yeah, this is happening. We want to offer conscious people to unite and to unite their energy into one bigger flow of energy and to create a new system. So don't fight the old system, but create something new that makes the old obsolete. And I always look at nature, and the cells have been here for hundreds of millions of years, perhaps billions of years. And they have already solved all the problems that we still have to solve as a society. So if you look at societies of cells, how they solve a transformation, a very good example of that is how the caterpillar transforms into the butterfly. And it's a really nice story that I think has many parallels or correlations with what's happening today in our society. So you have a caterpillar, which is basically the bottom layer of the Maslow pyramid. It lives from its deficiency needs, food. So by the end of its life, it eats 200 times its own weight. And it also starts to eat poisonous, toxic leaves. Then it becomes a cocoon. And the outside of the cocoon becomes very stiff, very rigid. But the inside becomes a liquid soup of cells. And I think that's happening today. So we are coming out of this consumption-like society, and we see that our world is breaking down and everything doesn't work anymore. So we need to go to a different system. So we're now entering the cocoon phase, what I think. So we see a totalitarian, technocratic outside, which is becoming harder every day. New rules, new regulations, all things become mandatory, which were free choice 10 years ago. But the inside becomes polarized, individualized. It becomes a liquid soup of individuals. We see that more and more people start to lose their jobs. We see Brexit. We see all kind of dividing. So it becomes a soup of a nutritious soup that is the foundation to build something new. And what happens then in that cocoon is very important. We see imaginary cells. And these imaginary cells are cells that already have the blueprint of the butterfly. So they are strange guys asking strange questions, building strange systems. And they are not understood by the majority. So what the majority does, the rest of the liquid cells, which is mostly the caterpillar, they start to attack these imaginary cells. And these imaginary cells, as a result, start to unite in larger groups, in communities, because if you are a collective, then it's way harder to being attacked. And then they start to build a new system. They start to resonate. They start to speak the same language, these cells, and they become imaginary discs, which are almost limbs of the butterfly. And they start to connect with each other with all kind of networks. And a part of the caterpillar is being recycled, like the nervous system, the digestive system, but the rest is completely deposed and rebuilt. Yeah. And then at a certain level there is a trigger moment, and at the trigger moment a lot of cells die within the cocoon. They are not able to make the jump from a caterpillar to the butterfly, and the cells that are not yet part of the imaginary cells but are in between, they switch and they become part of the butterfly. And then the next phase is to break out of the cocoon. So if you help a butterfly to come out of the cocoon, it becomes paralyzed. It cannot fly. It doesn't have the strength to fly. So we need to break out of that cocoon to develop the strength to fly and to go into space and do wonderful things. So start to fulfill our growth needs. And I think that's exactly what is happening today. So we are in the cocoon phase. That cocoon will become stiffer, harder, much more uncomfortable in the next few years. But on the inside, we will see new systems being built. So it doesn't help you to fight the cocoon, the government or the outside system, because if the cocoon, there's a breach in the cocoon, then all the contents will die. So the cocoon is there to facilitate the transformation phase towards the butterfly. And I think that's exactly what's happening today. We have consumed 200 times our own weight, and therefore we now have a buffer to survive to the next phase. So we get free money from the government. There are all kind of things to help people, and this will help us to make the transition. A lot of people are now working from home, and they ask themselves, okay, I was working with a bank or a large institute or government. It didn't feel quite well, but now I'm home and I can choose to do what I want to do. I have more freedom, and more people start to feel that separation from the old system. So I think it's already in process, but I think it will take some extra years to get to that breakout point, at least 5-6 years from now. And until that, we have to. Until that moment, we have to build a new system. I think all the energy that we have, we should put in that new system and not fighting or resisting the old. And that's very hard. Also for myself, in the beginning of this COVID crisis, I felt a lot of resistance because freedom is one of my most important values, and freedom totally is being. So you try to fight the system, but it's not a real thing. The good thing to do. We have to build a new system that makes the old system obsolete. And in technology, that's always the case. Tesla doesn't fight the old automotive industry. No, it creates something new that makes the old automotive industry obsolete. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to disrupt the current system by building something new.
Have you been able personally to turn that resistance to a point of being grateful for what is happening, or is that a bridge too far? Yeah,
absolutely. At a certain point in time, I also always made the comparison with nature, and we need to go through this. It's a natural process, as uncomfortable as it might feel, but I think we need to go through this to make the transition. If you look at the world that we have today, it's unsustainable, and we need to go not to a sustainable world, to a complete regenerative world, like nature is. And the gap between those two worlds is so immense that we cannot bridge that by doing something different. We need to have a very deep crisis. And so I see this crisis as a blessing. And if you look at China, the sign for an opportunity and a crisis is in China exactly the same. So it's how you look at it. So it's all about mindset. And I think that's the most important thing. People need to develop a different kind of mindset and see this crisis as an opportunity to build something new from our own values and from our own way of living.
I think you and I have many people around us who are working on these new initiatives and new systems, but it's still, of course, a very small percentage of the whole population. And earlier you said 5 to 6 years before we get to a certain tipping point. What will be happening in those 5 to 6 years?
I think it will get worse. What we already see, more totalitarian systems, more technocratic systems. I think the whole testing society that is being built in the last months is the basis or the foundation for some kind of social credit system. So if you have some kind of world government, and that's I think finally where we're going to, they cannot rule the world from the way that we do it today. So you need technology to track people and see where they meet, what they're talking about, and in that way you can control society. And I think we will see more of that. So as long as we look at our governments for solutions for this crisis, we will see more control, because that's where governments are designed to do. Yeah. They are designed to control people, and so if they're in a crisis situation, they will do that even more. And I think in the next 5 years, we will see an increase of that, more control, more surveillance, more tracking, tracing of people. All our liberties will be taken away until a level that people don't accept it anymore. And I think that group is growing. And now, like every exponential development, in the beginning, it looks like a linear development. So you see very small increases. But at a certain level, and that's called the network effect, we see an exponential increase. So more and more people, so the chunks that become awake and aware of what's happening become larger and larger and larger. And at that moment in time, I think then we are near the tipping point in 2027. So then I think about 1 billion people worldwide will have a level of consciousness, a level of awareness, and start to see what's happening and start to consciously spread that to the rest. And if you look at the hype curve, you have the familiar height curve, and it starts with the innovators, the early adapters, and then we have the majority. That's about 11 or 12% of the total population you need to have to get the majority to switch. Mm-hmm. And then you have the laggers, and those switch because there's nothing else to choose from.
And there are people who will never switch.
They will never switch until you cannot buy a smartphone or whatever phone. They will switch to a smartphone if you can't buy an old Nokia anymore. Mm. But I think we need to reach that critical mass in the beginning of 10 to 12%. And if we have that on a conscious level, then we can make a switch. Because these people are scattered all over organizations, within governments, within commercial organizations, within societies, within municipal, within cities. And if we have then a critical mass, then we see that the message will spread even faster. Yeah. And then to go to the top, that's only a couple of years' time.
This is actually what I'm working with Origins. I think it's the same thing, to get to this at least 10% level of awake creators to get into that switch. Why 2027? How do you know?
How do you know? If I look at my model and I extrapolate my model, then we look at 7 waves of technological disruption.
Can you share a little bit about that model?
The model,
about those 7
sure.
waves.
What I found out is that if you look at the development of cells towards organisms, so the first single-celled organisms toward human beings, a society of cells, they went through 7 disruptive waves. So in each wave, they developed new systems, new tissues, new organs to create a new kind of organism. And it started with multicellular organisms, with coral, for example, which is the prototype of our bones. In the second wave, we saw worm-like organisms, which are the prototype of our digestive system, of our vascular system. In the third wave, we saw jellyfish-like organisms, which are basically the prototype of our nervous system. Then we saw dinosaurs, so reptile is basically the prototype of our brain stem, our reptile brain. Then the mammals, which is our limbic brain, our social brain, our mammal brain. And then the sixth wave was about the new cortex brain, and the seventh wave was about the prefrontal cortex wave. And each wave resulted in new systems that helped us to become more aware of our environment, adapt more easily, and that way we could survive. And what we see today is that these 7 waves are repeating themselves, but now it's not about cells using biology to create organisms, it's about sapiens, Homo sapiens, using technology to build organizations. But we move through the same waves, and we have the same problems, and we solve them in the same way. And we are now at the 6th wave, which is the AI in the cloud wave, which is comparable to the neocortex brain in our. It's also the AI in the cloud for our body. And these waves, what you see is that always new technologies are being used by the ego first. For cruise missiles, for example. So the first GPS sensors were in cruise missiles that fly into bunkers in Iraq. Mm. But now we have GPS sensors in our smartphone helping us to do good things and to navigate and do everyday things. So each wave is always misused by people in control. It's for them, it's a tool to have even more control. Now we are entering the 6th wave, which is about robotics and artificial intelligence. So in the first few years, they will misuse this technology against us to have even more control. So with facial recognition, with AI, you can track a whole country with everyone inside of it. Yeah. You can track how they spend money and all these things. So, and always you see a tipping point. So in the beginning, people use this technology And at a certain time, it switches from the ego to the ecosystems. And that's because it becomes very cheap and abundant, and then everyone starts to use it, and then it's used for the good of humanity. And if you calculate that, you can see the end of the AI wave is around 2027. And that's what I think is there will be a shift in how we use the technology. And it's extreme powerful technology, even more powerful than the atom bomb. And if we use that against the ruling class, then they're gone within days, I think. That's powerful. And another way, I'm really sensitive already since childhood for things to happen. And I had some insights a couple of years ago during a retreat.
How was it as a child to have that?
Strange. I was not understood by my environment. And
Can you give an example?
No, it's a gift, but it's also a burden. You know things when they happen, they will happen, and you try to warn people, but they don't listen, and they make a mistake, and you have the feeling that you could prevent that. So you have knowledge of things that are going to happen, but you try to convince people to listen to you. This will happen, but they don't listen. Yeah. And they walk into a wall or whatever, and then you have the feeling it's my fault because I could have prevented it. But later on in life, I started to realize that people have to learn themselves. Becoming consciousness, I cannot do that for you. You have to do it yourself. You have to make mistakes. You have to learn from those mistakes. You have to reflect with that mirrors, and then you increase in consciousness. So. As a child.
And you feel it, or you see it, or it's a combination of both?
No, it's a knowing. It's very hard to explain. It's more like seeing patterns or visions. So I'm very bad at language. I'm dyslexic. Reading and writing is a big issue for me. And therefore I developed my visual side. And that's also how I communicate with people in my presentations, but also how I see things. So I can see something, and it takes me a year to write it in a book, to make it understandable for in human language.
And when do you see it? Is it happening when you're taking a walk, or when you're sleeping, or what? How does it work?
When I wake up. I think the first 10-15 minutes of your day you're in the alpha state, the gateway to your subconsciousness. So you are a conductor when you're in the shower, when you're in the woods, when you're in flow, when you're skiing, surfing. So when you're in the here and in the now. And as more as you're in being in the present, so practicing presence is for me also a daily exercise. Every time I want to grab my smartphone, I think, okay, practice presence here and now. So not reading about all the things happening in the future or in the past, but here and now.
And how do you do that, practicing presence?
Feel, breathe, feel your body, feel your senses, experience what's happening in your environment. And that's also why I moved to near a location near the sea, so I can surf every day and be part of the water, part of the flow. So I've been talking about catching the next wave for the last 5 years in my keynotes, and now I want to embody that. So I want to be in that wave, in that moment, in that flow every day, as many times as possible at least.
You're not afraid for an overdose of visionary things?
No, I think we could need that right now, especially in the project that we are working on. And those universal principles, it's very hard to understand those, but you can see them in nature. And you have to be conscious of what's happening in nature, how cells communicate on a cellular level. And I've been a holographic, or how do you say that, a practitioner of feedback technology, and therefore I know a little bit how cells are communicating with each other using biophotons, using light. And these principles, we also want to use them in the platform. And to understand these principles, you have to be in a very relaxed mode. If you're too much in the push mode, too much in your head, in an academic mode, then you cannot understand it. You need to develop a holistic view on things. And that's also my whole book, my whole keynotes are based on a more holistic view, because if you widen your angle of view, then you see how the big system is working, how nature solves these problems. And they are almost always very elegant and very straightforward. Nature doesn't do anything obsolete. So you need to be in a holistic state of mind. And I think being in your body, being in the here and now, then you see things as they are. You experience.
So you always had that capacity as a child already, and now you're pushing it a little bit further by consciously bringing yourself in the present moment?
Yeah, I had that since childhood. For example, I was at a birthday and someone get a lava lamp. It's a lamp that gets molten liquid with all kind of colors. And I said, at 12 o'clock tonight, this thing will explode. And everyone drinking beer. And exactly at 12 o'clock, and a second, bang, the thing explode. Everyone looking at each other, what's this? And they move on, but they still refer to it. And that was unconscious. So I said it, I don't know why I said it, but it came true. And since the thing with my daughter, I started to trust on my instincts because it helped to save our daughter's life. And therefore I became more familiar with the skill, and now I try to practice it by being more present because I know that is the key to stay connected with the field, the quantum field, the source field, whatever you call it, to get those insights. You don't get them from a book or from. It's pure insights that you'll have in a moment under the shower, when you wake up, when you're in the woods, when you're aligned.
And in this way, for you also, 2027.
Yeah. I had an insight about this year that we will have a moment where 1 billion people start to resonate as one big organism. And basically, it's the heartbeat of humanity. We will see the first heartbeat, and that's also a medical term for that. And I'm working on a movie, syncytium. And a functional syncytium is when the cells...
what did you say? What is the name?
Syncytium.
What does that mean?
It's a medical term for cells who start to collaborate together as one system, and it happens in your heart muscle. So your whole heart is beating like one system. All the muscles are acting in the same way, but they are all own sovereign cells. So when a child is conceived in the womb, certain heart cells start to develop and they start to beat before it's even a heart, and that's a functional syncytium. So, and I think that's also will happen. We are also in a kind of womb. If you look at the Earth, that humanity, we see different cells, heart cells now. They start to beat, but they have to become one tissue, and that's what I believe that will happen in 2027. That we will have our own heartbeat, and that we are moving from thinking in an academic way from our heads towards more heart-based society. And that's when we will see the switch, I think.
That will be amazing.
Absolutely, yeah.
And there's a knowing, you experienced a knowing when you saw this happening.
Yeah, I went into this retreat in Portugal with the question, what is my purpose? Because I'm speaking to people, but is this really my purpose? And what do I have to do? I'm always in that push mode because you see something that's going to happen and you want to run to it, to fix it. And the message that I got out of this retreat was the only thing that you have to do to make this happen in 2027 is be yourself. Zijn. Now, how do you say it? Being. Yeah, being. That's the only thing you have to do. So that's what I want to practice also in Bonaire. Being. And the only thing that you can do that by being in nature. And I think that's the shortest route to get there. But it feels like, if you look at it from a traditional perspective, it looks like a very slow way to get there. But I think it's the fastest way to get there. By being in harmony with nature, you get insights. And these insights, I can use them in the platform and the basic principles. And then we can build a platform. And strange things happen now in these days. People come towards me and offer me huge amounts of money to build a platform. So it's it's a very strange how these things work.
So some synchronicities are happening.
Yeah, and in the early days I have to earn those money myself to build it. But now you see everything comes on its way when you need it, when you're ready for it. So yeah.
How would you describe your move to Bonaire right now, which is of course a major transition to take yourself out of a certain context and bring yourself into a new one? If you would call it a chapter heading, what is this new phase in your life that you're going into right now?
A chapter of alignment, of being, flow, a deeper inner journey, I think. And a lot of people say to me, oh, don't you think it's scary because you leave all your things behind, your car, your house, your social environment? But it's not scary because the thing that I'm familiar with is this, and my family. So I don't leave this at this moment, so it's not scary for me. Yeah. So I think the chapter I think the title of the chapter will be Being, or flow, something like that. Nature, alignment with nature, and translate that into technology.
And how does it work with you that a decision like this comes into fruition? So at a certain point in time, it comes to you, you see it, you feel it, or is it? How does it start?
I felt it since my daughter was born. We wanted to move to Ibiza, but it was too permanent for my wife. We want to buy there something and live there, some ecological thing with our own energy, own water, these kind of things. And Bonaire was a more safe choice for now because it's temporary. And so I was, for the last years, convincing my wife that this was a good choice. Also, what's going to happen in the world and in the next few years, months. And at a certain point, she also started to feel it. And then it was a no-brainer. So we made our decision, and everything from there on went in flow. So finding a home there, finding a school for the kids, leaving all the old stuff behind. And it feels like a release. So leaving all the material stuff behind. It's also a bit of ego, what you leave behind, perhaps. Old material world. And it feels very free. So we are now in the process of making choices. Do I keep it? Do I take it with me? Or do I give it to some poor people in poor countries? And that's a very liberating process. And what they say with the great transformation, you own nothing, you'll be happy. I truly believe that. The more things you own, the more things end up owning you. So if it's there, it's okay, but it doesn't determine how you feel. And if you can leave that behind, I think that will help you to make other decisions, to be more free. Because the more things you have, the more things start to push you in a certain direction. If you have a big house, you have a mortgage. If you have a big car, you have to pay that. And it drives you in a direction that smells like money or more pressure. Yeah. And if you leave that behind, then you can make different kind of choices.
A few weeks ago, my car broke down. And I brought it to the dealer, and they said, "Well, you have to wait a couple of weeks before you before it's fixed." It didn't charge anymore. So I thought, well, let's not take a car. I will do without a car for a few weeks. Just go to the office on my longboard or on a bike. I don't really like biking, by the way, and then I did this, and I felt so free because of it. My girlfriend and I even decided, well, let's get rid of one of our two cars because we don't need two. Yeah. And I know it helps me to hike through the forest to the office instead of going with car. One car is enough. So the simplicity of life is becoming bigger, and I can already feel the level of joy is rising because it helps me to be in nature more, and it's harder for me to go away to a place where I know I will not find it because it's all in the present moment.
Yeah, I think so. Alignment, being aligned is leaving material stuff behind because it makes you heavy in all kinds of ways. So
travel light.
Yeah, travel light. Yeah.
Great. You shared with me before, and you really triggered me with this. The three things that Tesla was talking about. Yeah. Can you share this? What this is about?
Yeah, Nikola Tesla said if you want to understand the universe, you have to understand frequency, vibration, and energy. And that's also the basic principle of the Swarm platform that we are building today. So everyone has a frequency, an energetic frequency. Your values, your skills, your soft skills, your intention, your purpose, all these things that made up you is basically a frequency. And if
what is frequency?
Frequency is basically your fingerprint, your if you are an instrument, your tone, how you sound. So all if you have a guitar, the type of wood that you use, the type of metals that you use, all determine the sound of the instrument, and that's for every instrument true. So basically, all those variables that we have collected during our lives determine how we sound, who we are. And if you can capture that in some kind of using self-tests or profiles, you can start to resonate with other people. So the platform starts to look for other people who have the same intentions, the same values, but perhaps complementary skills. So together you create a small ecosystem. And if you collect more people, then you create a bigger ecosystem. And the bigger the ecosystem, the more you can focus on who you really are. You have a smaller role, but that role is more deep. And if that resonance happens, and it happens also if you have...
So that's the second thing, resonance.
Resonance, yeah. So if you have frequencies, the same frequencies, they start to resonate with each other. This also happens within the caterpillar or within the cocoon. So cells with the same frequencies start to resonate, start to attract to each other. And that's also happening in your daily life. You meet people and they have a click, and then you resonate with someone. But what if you could accelerate the process, that you could meet people all over the world that you have never met before, or that you will never met, but the system will bring you together because based on your resonance. Then you can create communities from natural flow, from natural energy, basically. And when there's resonance, energy is transferred. So if you have a glass of wine, for example, and a speaker, and that wine glass has a specific resonance frequency. So at that frequency, it starts to resonate. And if you put that tone on the speaker, then you can make the glass resonate. And if you increase the amplitude of that signal, then the glass will shatter because energy is transferred from the speaker to the glass. So if you have two people who are resonating with each other, or a thing and a people, so a specific task and a group of people, if they resonate, then energy is transformed in the form of communication, funding, energy in the form of new ideas, new initiatives. And then the third step is energize people, so help them to collaborate on a global scale. So these three principles, we use them, and you see them everywhere in nature. So your lung cells are resonating with each other, therefore they form lung tissue. We see it on a molecular level. Aluminium molecules resonate with each other, and therefore they form a solid metal. We see it everywhere in nature, and we want to use these principles as a foundation of the platform. So resonance is, I think, the main, the most important thing. And therefore, if you want to have resonance, you need to have the frequency. So we need to do all kind of tests, but also not what you put into the tests or what you put in your profile, but what other people think about you, because that might be different, because you have a bias. You see the world different than other people. And all that is collected by the algorithms, and it will help to make you more whole. And the more whole you are, your profile, the better you can be matched, and the better matches you will encounter. And I think it's synchronicity on steroids. So you will encounter more people, more situations that are exactly what you need at that moment.
What you're saying now helps me to understand also we have a scan within Origins. I told you about this. And the scan measures your energetical blueprint, which is then frequency. And a few years ago, we did a pilot in a city in which we measured the frequency of certain restaurants. And when people filled out the scan, we could predict whether you were going to like being in that restaurant or not, because what you are missing within yourself could be fulfilled by the environment and the other way around. So that's very exciting, that matching of people or whole groups of people, organizations, and we're able to do that also with the work that you're doing. It is on steroids.
Yeah, absolutely. I think your personal development will go much faster because you meet exactly the right people, the right situations, the right tasks that match your state of being, where you are right now. And therefore, we also developed a future proof test. So we test at what level of consciousness someone is. And we try to offer tools and tricks which are at your level, or perhaps a little bit above, to create a little bit of stretch. And if you do that, you can always meet people where they are. So it's not good or bad, there's no opinion or label, but everything is okay. So if you meet people where they are and you put them between other people which are perhaps a little bit more conscious, then they level up. It's like cells. If you put a sick cell between healthy cells in a petri dish, that sick cell becomes healthy because the environment starts to resonate with the environment. So if you can create constellations of swarms of people with a certain level of consciousness or skills, and you put people there which are perhaps on the bottom of that spectrum, then they level up and perhaps they become the better ones, and then the better ones skip to the next group. And so it's a continuous flow of energy into the swarm.
So you're bringing structure into expanding your consciousness.
Absolutely, and also creating collective intelligence in that way, because what we see is that a swarm is also a neural network. And if you look at our brain, for example, it's also a neural network. And the intelligence is not in the neurons, but in the connection between those neurons. So it's about emotional intelligence, how are they connected? And this is also what we want to create in a swarm of people. So the better the connections are, the higher level of emotional intelligence, the more information flows between two nodes in the network. And if you have a network which there's full trust because everyone is at that high level, then you see collective learning and group learning, social learning starts to emerge. And that's a kind of collective intelligence, as you will. So the swarm will become extremely intelligent. And at Max Planck Institute in Germany already did a lot of research into these swarms in nature. What they found out is that these swarms are 95 to 99% more effective in solving problems or avoiding danger than individuals. So if you look at an individual ant, for example, it has a couple of neurons, but that collective of ants is capable to build entire cities and find food and supply chains and all these things. So we need to tap into that kind of intelligence.
So this can totally change the way we create also
absolutely,
together.
Absolutely.
How do you envision it can change the way we live? So, because when you're bringing people together who have this resonance with each other, will that mean that people start to live in communities, or for more and more people start to work remote, so they live all over the world? Do you see something that will be happening here in the next, let's say, 10 to 15 years?
It's already happening a little bit, but what I think is that if you resonate with other people, you can meet online. Today is that using app or Zoom or Teams. In the near future, we will have holographic technology. So we will have a conversation like this, and my brains cannot tell if you're real there or you're in America or Australia. So I think that will also blend.
How many years before we're there?
I think 5 or 6 years from now. You already have these technologies. I think they're more too expensive and not yet abundant available. But when they become better and cheaper, like the first smartphone and the smartphone that we have right now. It's a huge difference. So we now see technology, they predicted in 2025, it's a $20 billion industry already, holographic devices. So 5, 6, 7 years from now, we will enter the 7th wave, which is all about holographic technology. The metaverse, so the internet is not a flat thing on your screen anymore, but it's everywhere around. It's a holographic layer on top of the real world. And that will totally change the way we interact with people and how we live. I think the difference between working and living will disappear. And it's already happening in COVID right now because people work from home between their family in their trusted environment. So they don't experience it at work anymore as they did before. In traffic jams, in cubicles, all these things. And I think when we move towards more holographic technology, that will even disappear. And if you start to do work in the swarm that is purpose-driven, then it doesn't feel like work anymore. So I think that will be a dramatic change. So you will be busy with your lifelong development, your personal development. And the fruit that come out of that development is the economical or societal impact that you have on the environment. It's your currency almost. So we will have a complete different way of living, I think. Living, learning, working will be completely integrated into each other. You will not be able to distinguish. Your friends will be your colleagues. So I think we will create completely different communities than we have today. And perhaps people will move. I think borders will disappear at the end. We now have geographical borders that in the end, and we also see that for the Great Reset, is that it's not important anymore. So different cultures, different religions, they want to reset that to one equal, same level playing field. I think this will also help to create a society where you can live everywhere that you want. And moving to Bonaire is also a step in that direction. So everything is digital, so it doesn't matter where we are right now. Yeah. I can do the same thing there.
So when you talk about the Great Reset, some people look at this positively, some people look at it negatively. But in the way you're talking about it, this thing is happening and it has its positive sides and negative sides, and it's just happening. You don't have to have an opinion on it. It feels like this. Is that right?
Yeah, I think change is always painful. And it doesn't matter who ignites that change. Today it's the global elite and the governments as a result. But I think we need that change. If you look at that old world which we are in right now, which is devastating our living environment, and you look at that regenerative world that we should be in, the world like nature intended to be, that gap is massively. So someone needs to take the authority, but also the initiative to start that transition. And I think that's what's happening right now, and we need that. I think it's important that we take charge of the transformation process halfway through. And if we don't do that, we end up in a totalitarian technocratic society. But I think halfway we will change, and they will start the transition, and we will end it. If we do it that way, then we can create a society which is beneficial for everyone, and not for a happy few. So I think we need it. It's a natural process, and it's unpleasant, and therefore it's also important to be aligned with who you truly are. If you grab yourself to the systems that we have, and those systems collapse, then you also collapse. But if you are your own rock, your own steady, you know who you are, why you are here, then it's not scary, because you know what your task is right here. So then that's why it's so important for people to start it in a journey, and to start to discover who they are. And the moment when you find it, you never find it exactly, but when you are on the right direction, or the right path, then you're not afraid anymore of that world that is collapsing, because it's not impacting you. You do not identify yourself with your job, with your organization, with your status.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How do you look at the integration of this holographic reality and, let's say, the real world of being in nature, which is, of course, also a tendency that's happening, that more and more people start to connect with nature, also like you are doing now. So how can we live in those two realities at the same time? Or will we see people who choose one or the other? How do you look at that?
Well, the first big question is, what is reality?
Yeah.
Is this reality that we are living in, is it not some kind of holographic construct? I believe so. I really think that we are in some kind of simulation. And if you look at the quantum physics and quantum, how that works, if consciousness observes something, then it materializes in particles. And if it's not observed, then it stays a wave, then it's information. So everything that we see as a collective materializes because we have observed it in that way. So I think that technology eventually will be obsolete, because we start to understand how reality works, and we will be able to manipulate that reality by shifting our intentions. And in old lectures, they say, if you believe it, you can move a mountain, for example. I really believe that it's possible, but if you need to create that kind of level of consciousness, because if you are, how do you say that? If you truly believe that something changes, then it also manifests in your life. If you practice that, you see it every day around you. It's not a coincidence anymore. So if we start to learn that, then we don't need technology anymore. So eventually, I think technology and nature will merge, because technology will become more natural. Because we start to understand how technology should be used, and we start to use it in the way cells used it to build our system. So eventually, if you look at new technologies, for example, like artificial intelligence, regenerative design, so we can make designs that look the same like bones, so very organic, natural structures. We can build new materials which are completely organic, that decompose after a time. So we now have the power with AI to create in a different way, which is more in harmony with nature. And that will help us to reconnect with nature again. But that's a very thin line, of course, because we also start to manipulate genes, for example, with CRISPR-Cas9 technologies. That can go both in different ways. And I think every technology has its benefits, but also its burdens. And I think with holographic technology, we will see a massive amount of people who are enslaved in a holographic world. So they will choose to stay in that holographic world and will not participate in the real world anymore. We already see that with people who are game addicted, the addiction that we have for our smartphone and the Facebook timeline and these kind of things. And holographic technology is even more emerging and engaging. And I think that will seduce a lot of people to stay in that world and to be there and to create a new kind of identity there and eat pizzas and cola in the real world. And you will have another kind of people who will distinguish themselves from that and start to look at nature more. So in between, we will have a separation, I think. So both worlds will be, you will have a merger of both worlds, but there will also be people who are in the extremes of both.
Who will not meet each other in the real world anymore.
Yeah, you will have people who are fully offline, people who are fully online, and people who are finding a balance. Because I think if you find a balance, then you can use it in the extension of your intentions. Like your smartphone, it can use you, or you can use it when you need it. And I think that's technology is a tool. and we should see it that way. So we should grab it when it's a conscious thing. And I think today the opposite is true. And with holographic technology, it's become even more seductive to grab that stuff and to lost yourself in that world.
Can you share something about the power of technology when it comes to expanding your own awareness and consciousness? Like, well, you talked about the mirrors before, but what can technology do in your own personal growth? Can you make this concrete?
Yeah, I just encountered a new kind of technology from Germany. It's called Healy. It's a small device and it can measure your bioenergetic field. And if you are busy with your work or focused on something and you measure yourself, that comes up in your app. So by becoming aware of that, you can change it. I truly believe that becoming aware of something, a pain or whatever you have in your body, that's also the cure. But also the way to increase your level of consciousness. If you have stomach pain, then you become aware of your stomach, and therefore you start to eat differently, or you don't eat at all anymore, and then you start to cure, to heal yourself. So I believe that technology can help us to become aware, so that reflection, instant feedback, that will help us to become aware of what we are doing. And by becoming aware, that's already a growth or step in next level in consciousness. And the faster technology becomes, like artificial intelligence or holographic technology, the more instant that feedback becomes. So in the last 60 years we have polluted the ocean with plastics, and now we have plastic soup. A big problem. It's in our food, it's in our system, in our body. But with AI we have instant feedback. So if you do something wrong, it instantly comes back right in your face, and that feedback loop will help us to become more aware as an individual, but also as a collective. So humanity using AI in the wrong ways will be very destructive. So we can do it, but it will be a very short time and we'll see the effect and then we will change it. So therefore I'm hopeful that new technologies, if used by the ecosystem, help us to become aware in a much faster way than we did before. Simply because that feedback loop becomes shorter and more instant.
So can this also be a feedback loop on, for example, the kind of thoughts that you have? So in the last 24 hours your thoughts have been about this, and becoming aware of it can help you to change your thought and change your intention, so different things will manifest?
Absolutely. What we are trying to achieve in the platform also is, for example, a smartwatch app that will ask you in the end of the day, how many times have you been in flow today? Because flow is one of the properties, I think, of being in purpose. So if you're fully in flow. So it can help you to create some kind of habits. And that this is simply because you can look at your heart rate. If your heart rate is very relaxed, then perhaps you're in a kind of flow state. If you're very stressed, then you're not in flow because you're swimming against the current. And I think with technologies that are already there, Open Water is a company like that. So they use a reflection of laser light inside of your head, and they can read your brains on a neuron level. So you don't have to have a chip like the Neuralink from Elon Musk, but you can wear a soft hat, for example, and they can almost see on a picture level what you are thinking about. And these technologies...
So then they can see what you are thinking about with pictures?
Yeah, if you imagine a picture of a pink elephant, for example, on the computer screen you see a picture of a pink elephant. So they are already at that level. And it only becomes better using AI and better sensors and chips, etc. And it will become cheaper and it will become abundant. And then for a certain level you can use that tool to become aware of your thoughts. I think an average person has 20 or 30,000 thoughts every day. If you become aware of that, then you can start to work on that. You have thoughts about this, those are negative. And then if you become aware of it, then you can change your thought. And technology can help you to do that. And at a certain level you don't need it anymore because you are fully aware of it yourself. And I think therefore technology is always a tool to get you at a certain level, and at a certain level you don't need it anymore.
So, because some people when they hear something like this will say, well, holy fuck, that's scary. And you said before, technology is always first used for ego and then for eco. So there will be a phase we will have to go through in which it will not help us.
Absolutely, yeah.
And how do you look at that when this is about something that comes so close to someone?
Yeah. Klaus Schwab had a recent interview where he told that everyone should have a brain scan before entering an airplane. So I want to know your intentions. On itself, it's...
So that's ego.
That's the ego part, a control part. The other part is that you can use it to communicate on a much wider bandwidth than we do today, for example. So now we are communicating with WhatsApp and email and all kind of artificial ways of connecting. But what if you could connect on a physical level, holographic, but also on a mental level? So you have much more bandwidth to connect with other people. That's the upside. What you see, for example, is that Facebook is already researching these kind of technologies. So when you have your holographic mask, there will also be some kind of brain sensor included. And now they know where you're looking at on a website, which kind of ads, but then they know what you're thinking about. And Facebook is already building, they have 20,000 data points of each individual on the web, and they already can predict what's your next move. So what product you are going to buy, what trip you're going to book. And this is only an extension of that. So they will be able to look inside of your brain. And that's very scary, because if you know that, if you can do that, you can manipulate people even more than you can do today. Today you can already manipulate people because they, what kind of choices they make online, what kind of products they buy. But if you can look inside of their brains, then you can be one step ahead of what they are conscious of, and then you can manipulate them. And then you become a robot, basically. Yeah. And that's I think a very big
and
downside.
In many ways we already are when you look at the narratives that are being thrown on us.
Yeah. If you're not conscious, if you're in the lower level of consciousness, then you're already a robot. If you're sleeping, is the best example of it. Your body is taking care of everything. But many people are in a robot modus. They went to work, do their job, go to home, drink beer, watch TV, go to bed, and then repeat. And if you become more aware, of what you're actually doing, what gives you fun, and what you should do, basically. And I think technology can play a role there. But it's important, again, that the intention of the builder of the technology is to help people, to empower people, and to enslave people. If you look at the intention of Facebook, is to have as much eyeball time as possible. So they want to enslave you. YouTube, the same. LinkedIn, the same. All these platforms want as much attention of you as possible. But if you use the platform, what we intend to do is to empower you and put you between the right people at the right time. Then you use it to in line with nature. And I think that's the way that we should go.
You could reason that everything that we make with technology is something that we already can do ourselves. When it comes about having insight in your thoughts, that can also be through telepathy. But most people don't know how to do it yet. So how do you look at this? Like, we're using technology, we're mimicking something that is already somewhere in our being. It has to be in our consciousness first before we can make it anyway. Is it then an in-between stage in which we use this technology, or it will merge in every kind of aspect and it's just a part of consciousness?
I think it's a tool to get somewhere. If you look at the 7 waves, in the first wave we saw bone structures. The second wave we saw organisms like worms. If you look at the waves that we have today in our society, in the first wave we were building bone-like structures, cities, stone structures to keep us safe. So it's basically an extension of our skin, keep a wall around our city. In the second wave was about infrastructure, so the vascular system. So we built oil pipelines and these kind of things. So that helped us to pump things like fluids or oil over longer distances. In the third wave, we basically create an extension of our nerve system, so send signals from one place to the other in the world. The wave, which was about the automation wave, the reptile brain, is basically an extension of our own reptile brain. So we were able to automate all kind of things with software, with operating systems and software. And now we are at a level that the AI wave is about learning things. And what I see is that technology is used to, can be used to augment our way of solving problems or being more creative. So I think that the more advanced technology becomes, eventually it will disappear. And we don't see this technology anymore because it's fully integrated in everything that we do. And every time a wave is new, it's strange to us and we have to get used to it, but you don't get used to heating your house or buying food or cooking food. So these technologies are already incorporated, it's normal. So I think that the new technologies will also get there, but faster. And eventually we don't see them as technology anymore and they will also disappear. So today we have a screen on our desk and a gray box under our desk, we call it a computer. that already became a smartphone in your pocket. And when we have contact lenses, or even we can project neurons photons in our eyes, we don't need a device anymore. So physical things will dematerialize, and eventually we will realize that we don't need it anymore because we are fully equipped to do it ourselves. And 3D printing as well. We now are able to build a product within hours. And a few centuries ago, it took years to build something. Now it's faster, but I think in the end we can manifest matter because we have a certain intention. But we still have to learn that. And that's, I think, where technology is helping us with. And when we are able to do it ourselves, we don't need the technology anymore. Mm-hmm. So it's a temporary stage, I think.
Manifest matter through intention. How does that work? How does intention work?
How does intention? Well, I believe that if you look on a holistic level, we have an information field. And in the way that we observe that information field, things manifest in the form of matter. And it's an unconscious process right now. And I think sooner or later we will become conscious of how this works. IBM, for example, is already able to build materializers. So they use some kind of vibration to materialize graphene. It's a new kind of material into chips. So they don't do it the old way anymore, but they now can materialize something using certain sound frequencies or resonant frequencies. And I think we can also do that because our brain, if you look at Dr. Miyoto with the ice crystals, if you have a specific positive intention, which is love, compassion, then if you freeze that drop of water, then you see a fully symmetric ice crystal. If you put bad intentions into that same bottle of water and you freeze that same drop of water, then you have very distorted ice fragments. So basically it's already happening without us noticing it. And when we build technology that is receptive for the thoughts that we have, so we can tap into the frequencies that we use on a thought level, on an information level, we can materialize things. And first we need technology for that, and later I think we can do it on our own. And I truly believe that ancient civilizations already were capable of doing that. Way
without any technology.
Yeah, and that's why they could build things that we today still not understand.
Yeah. Yeah, I dived into that as well. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Something that's starting to interest me more lately is the concept of time. And of course you have the presence in the present moment. In the ultimate present moment there is no time, there's only the presence. And when you're in a flow state, there is also less experience of time. What role can technology play in experience of time?
Well, yeah, if you are in a flow state, time disappears, or the feeling or the experience of time disappears. And I think when you're in flow, you're connected with the information field, and then you have the most possible impact that you could have. And I think technology can help us to get in that moment. I think it's a very narrow bandwidth, and if technology can guide you there, and you know how to get there, and repeatedly, like an anchor, then we can have more impact because we are aligned and we are connected with the field, and we can manipulate that field by setting our attentions. So I think technology can help us to become more pure, pure is I think the right word. And by becoming more pure, you are becoming the programmer of the information field, and then the information field manifests in matter. So I think that loop of setting an intention and believing that intention, feeling that intention, and materialize that in the real world, that process, some people can do it and become more effective at it, but I think in the end everyone can do it. And that's, I think, the way we can materialize things.
Can it also work when you sit with someone who is vibrating on a high level, as a high frequency? You tend to go into a higher frequency yourself as well. So your consciousness expands. Can sound waves through technology, through measuring your energy, help you to go into a different vibration? So
Absolutely. Yeah, I particularly was researching this part for the movie because we wanted to create an almost a multi-dimensional experience. So we want to impact the things that you see, but also we want to create frequencies that resonate with your chakra systems or your hormonal systems, so that also impact you on a cellular level, so that the impact is immense. And what we will try to achieve with that movie, and it's a long-term project, but I was talking to a guy in America. He was also playing specific sessions on Burning Man, etc. And he's professor on resonance, on cymatics, so how you can, what the communication layer between matter and sound is. So I think that with certain frequencies, harmonics, we can influence our state of being, and we can bring our body in a state that is more responsive to like an antenna, becoming more aligned with. We have sound bowls that monks used, for example, certain ohms, certain sounds. And the wave model that I explained earlier before is not only apparent between biology and technology, but it's also happening on a cellular level, molecular level, atomic level, but also on a subatomic level and also on a quantum level, on a wave level. So we have seen 7 waves of different kind of radiation: cosmic radiation, alpha radiation, visible light, radio waves, and eventually the 7th family, the last wave, was about sound. And that's the primal ohm. So sound set things into motion. So I think when sound, the frequency of sound was became a part of the spectrum, then matter start to occur, because I think that's the key between the intention field or the information and the material world. And I think there is the if we understand what's happening there, then we can manipulate matter much faster. And I'm personally also looking at cymatics. If you put a plate with a speaker below it, and you put sand on it or grains of other material, and if you put some harmonic frequencies on it, then beautiful pictures start to occur. And I believe also that we can use the technology to create different kind of swarm constellations. So if you change the frequency, then all the nodes in the network start to rearrange in a different constellation to solve a different kind of problem. So I think that sound and frequency, and we use it also to resonate between people. We translate someone's profile into colors and into sound, and then we can make resonance. So we translate in some kind of analog medium, and then you can create resonance, and then from there on you can work further on. But I think it's really important key in all these things, understanding sound, understanding frequencies, harmonics, because each 7 waves is an octave, and each higher octave starts where the last octave stops. So it's like a keyboard of the universe. And we start with those 7 keys. You can play every symphony that you want, every song that you want. And so I think it's really key in everything that we do. But we are moving towards that faster and faster. So I think with AI we can see patterns that we haven't seen before, and then study those patterns and understand how cells are resonating on a tissue level, for example. There were healing devices that use also sound to heal from cancer, for example. So I truly believe that there's a road towards new kind of devices that can help us to heal our bodies and to become more conscious also in that way. Because if you heal all kind of emotions which are on a cellular level stored, then there's more flow, and conscious can start to develop itself.
What is exciting you the most about living in this time on Earth right now?
Well, it's scary, and it's exciting at the same time. Scary, you see what's happening, you're aware of it, and it's not good if you look at your own values. But it's also, I think, it's a unique time. Never in history of mankind we came at a point where we are right now, with so many people on Earth, so many crises, so many issues. And so I see a huge opportunity to create a completely new world from the ashes of the old world. And you need a crisis, you need a wood forest to create a plain level field, to create space for new trees to grow, different kind of trees, different kind of plants. So I think it's we are the turning point, a tipping point in the evolution of our species, from becoming a deficiency need-driven species towards a growth need-driven species, and from the caterpillar towards the butterfly. And we are aware of that, and it's happening in a very short time frame. I really think that cocoon phase, that's 1 decade. I think perhaps it's some more, some less, but and we are witnessing this. We are part of it, and I think that's really exciting. But it depends on how you look at it. For many people, it's it's hell, and for other people, it's heaven. It's how do you how do you look at it?
Do you have your darker days once in a while that you go into the negative side of things, or?
Yeah, sure. If I translate it to my personal life, there was an announcement by Macron that vaccination will be mandatory in France for a lot of people if you want to go to shopping malls. In Greece, the same. And if I see these kind of things, I think, okay, what will this mean for me for my family if you're not in this flow? So yeah, sure. But then I think, okay, this is needed to create the pain that we need to become more aware. So please, more pain sooner. Yeah. And that's also why we opt out to. I think the Netherlands is quite safe where we are right now. It's one of the oldest democracies in the world. There are a lot of enlightened people in the Netherlands. And Bonaire is part of the Netherlands, so we have Dutch regulations, Dutch law, but they're much more relaxed there. So it's like a soft version of our system here. And I hope that I can find an environment there where I can step away from the things that give me stress, like these kind of things. Because you're on an island, you're separate from the rest, and then have enough free space, creative space to work on positive things. Because I admit, even though I know where it's going, it pulls you down on an energy level. If you look at your LinkedIn feed and you see all these things, and the new clip from Heineken, for example.
At first it was like, is this real? And then I had a big laugh, like you cannot imagine this.
It's really, but it's also frustrating. But I saw so many negative emotions. I am not alone. God thank.
What would you advise entrepreneurs, leaders, or people in general, how to ride the waves of transformation that are coming?
Don't look outside, look inside. I think if I look back at my entrepreneurial career, or how you call it, I always thought that I could go faster using this here, to push. What I now found out is that I can only go faster by slowing down. So turn into yourself, make it in a journey. Who are you? What is your purpose? What is your passion? What are your values? Start to learn yourself, to know yourself. And if you know that better, you can make different decisions and you can set intentions which are in line with your purpose. And things start to happen automatically. So you don't have to do it from force, but you can do it from your own power. And there's a very nice book, Force versus Power. I forgot the name of the author. But it's about that change. So many people work from force, from raw power, which depletes your energy sources and you get a burnout. But if you work from your inner source, then things go way easier and things go way faster. But it feels counterintuitive because you have to slow down and to stay in the here and now. And if you do that, you feel every day what you need to do. You don't have to-do lists because you learn to listen to your body. Today, it's a good day to do this. And tomorrow, I do different things. And in the winter, I do different things than in the summer. So I think that's the fastest way forward. And so start to make that inner journey.
Beautiful. Let's end with that. How can people find you? Where can people find your books or your website?
My website is www.christiankromme.com. I have a YouTube channel.
How do you spell that?
CHRISTIANKROMME.com. And also, if you Google my name, you can find me on YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn. I have a YouTube channel with some keynotes and lectures, and I also have a master course of 8 or 9 hours of content, which I guide people through all the 7 waves from a subatomic level towards where we are right now, and also how you can change your mindset to have a role in creating that new world, because it's all about mind shift, shifting towards a different kind of mindset. So on the web, Google my name and you get multiple pages of all kind of sources.
Great. Thank you for this inspiring conversation.
You're welcome. It was very nice to be here always.
Thanks. If you like this video, please press like, share, or comment below. For more content about living and creating from your essence, subscribe to this channel and of course the Awake Origins mailing list.